Hi everybody, welcome back to Brighten-Up-Sunshine, where every day is a new beginning. The story I have today is about Tom and how changing his narrative actually changed his life. So let's get into this, but before we do, as always, please go ahead and thumbs up today's artwork. I really do appreciate it. If you've not subscribed, then please go ahead and hit the subscribe button. But let's go ahead and get into this story. Tom's story begins in a small, quiet town nestled among the rolling hills. It was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone. And life, well, it seemed to move slower and slower on a more deliberate pace. Tom was just an ordinary man, by most accounts anyway. He worked as a mechanic at the local garage, and he fixed a lot of cars there for the townspeople, chatting with the customers and spending his evenings, like most of us, watching TV, alone in his modest home, his little 2-bedroom, 1-bath. But Tom had a problem that had haunted him for as long as he could possibly remember. No matter how hard he worked, and no matter how kind or helpful he was to the other people, Tom always felt like he was living a life that just simply did not belong to him. He was convinced that he was destined for failure, that no matter what he did, he would never amount to anything more than just Tom. Can any of you relate to this? It wasn't that his life was particularly bad. I mean, Tom had a roof over his head, food on the table, and an actual steady job. But deep down, Tom believed that his life was scripted, and that script was a tragedy. A narrative of a man stuck in the same routine, day after day, year after year, with no hope for anything better. His internal story was one of self-doubt, missed opportunities, and that sense of unworthiness. One particularly cold winter evening, after another long day at the local town garage, Tom found himself at a little bookstore. He wasn't even much of a reader, but the warmth of the shop was so inviting, and he needed something to take his mind off of all of his troubles. So he walked in, and he opened the old big wood door. It cracked a little, and he started browsing through the shelves. A small, unassuming book caught his eye. The title was simply this: Rewrite Your Story. Big, bold letters, he thought, for such a small little book. Something about this title intrigued him. He grabbed the book off of the shelf, and the first line inside the first page struck him like a bolt of lightning. Here's what it read: The stories we tell ourselves, they shape our reality. Tom had never even thought of his life as a story, but the idea that he could rewrite it was both terrifying and exhilarating. Obviously, Tom bought the book and took it straight home. That night he stayed up reading. The book was not just about writing stories, though. It was about understanding the narratives we create in our minds. These internal dialogues that actually dictate how we see ourselves and the world around us. The book argued that by changing your internal story, you could change your life. Tom stayed up reading that book, and the next morning, Tom woke up with a new sense of purpose. He decided he was going to rewrite his story. Just like the book said, he started small with the way he spoke to himself. Instead of saying, "I'm just a mechanic," he began to say, "I am Tom and I'm good at what I do." It felt strange at first, almost like he was lying to himself as he looked there at himself in the mirror, but he just persisted. As the days and the weeks passed, Tom noticed a shift in his life. It wasn't that his circumstances had drastically changed. He was still working at the garage after all, still living in the same modest house, that 2-bedroom, 1-bath. But something inside him had started to transform. He began to take more pride in his work, to engage more deeply with his customers, and even to explore some new hobbies that he had once dismissed as not for someone like him. One day, a customer named Sarah came into the garage with a car, and it needed to be fixed, but not just fixed, it needed a quick fix. See, Sarah was new in town, and she had moved into the city after a messy divorce. She was trying to start over. But like Tom, she was struggling to believe that her life could be any different from the mess it had become. As Tom worked on her car, they struck up a conversation. Tom began to share his recent journey of rewriting his story in the book, and to his surprise, Sarah was deeply moved by this. "That is exactly what I need to do," she said. Tears began to well up in her eyes. "I've been living in the past, telling myself that I am just a failure. But maybe, just maybe, I could change that." Well, over the next few weeks, Sarah and Tom began to meet regularly, encouraging each other. "Rewrite your story," one would say to the other. And Tom found himself becoming more confident, not just in his work, but in his personal life. He started attending the community events, volunteering at the local shelter, and he even took up some painting, something he had always wanted to try, but he had never had the courage to pursue it. Sarah, inspired by Tom's example, began to rebuild her own life. She found a job she loved, made some new friends in the town, and actually started to see herself not as a victim of her past, but as the author of her future. The two of them became very close friends, and eventually something more. As the years went by, Tom's life changed in ways he could have never imagined. He opened his own garage right there in the town, and he became known not just for his excellent service, but for the warmth and positivity that radiated from everyone that worked there with him. Tom actually became their mentor. He became mentors to many people in the town, helping them to see the power they had to rewrite their own story. And one evening, as he sat on the porch of his house, now shared with Sarah, who had become his wife, Tom reflected on how far he had come. The man who once believed he was destined for nothing more than a mediocre life, just mediocre. Funny, right? And he had transformed into someone who was not only successful, but actually happy. The key is Tom realized he had been changing his story little by little, shifting the narrative in his mind from one of failure and unworthiness to one of possibility and growth. He had opened the door to a life that was filled with meaning and connection and joy. Tom's story is a powerful reminder that the stories we tell ourselves shape our reality. By changing our internal narratives, we can change the course of our very lives. Tom's transformation wasn't about external success. It was about that internal shift. that allowed him to see the world and himself in a new light. And that change made all the difference. Comment below if you like this, if you want to hear more of these stories. I'll talk to you guys later, and remember, from here at Brighten-Up-Sunshine, we always say, the sun always rises. I'll see you in the next video.